Hey guys, today we're gonna read a book, Mocha. She is so cute, and I meant Mocha, guys. Sorry, guys. And it's a winter story. And guys, I hope you enjoy this book when I read it. And so, guys, let's get started. Mocha. I meant Mocha. Chapter 1. Look at that one. Charles stared at his mom, steered the van past another huge house high on a hill. It's like a castle. I don't remember any of these giant houses from last year. They all sprang up like mushrooms. Mom shook her head. This area sure has changed. It was a few days before Thanksgiving, and the Petersons were on their way to visit Uncle Stephen and Stephanie, and cousins Becky and Stephanie, who lived out in the country last time they'd come. This road had been a quiet lane with fields of corn, grazing cows, and apple orchards on either side of that. This time, everything looked different. New roads had been carved through what used to be fields and forest, and gigantic houses dotted the open land. Near one cluster of brand new houses, not anymore, it isn't. Stephen told me there had been a lot of development here. Rich people from the city mostly. They think the area is charming, perfect for a weekend getaway home. You mean people don't even like in those gigantic houses full time? Asked Lizzie, Charles' older sister. That's not fair. When some people don't have any homes at all. Dad nodded. You're not right. You're right. It's not fair, he said. Not fair, not fair, chanted the bean. Charles' younger brother from his car seat. He bounced and waved his fist in the air. Buddy chimed in a few happy barks. Charles put his arm around his brown and white puppy, who sat cuddled between Charles and Lizzie, strapped into a travel harness. Buddy leaned against Charles and sniffed into his ear as he scratched the heart-shaped white patch on Buddy's chest. The world wasn't fair, but at least he had Buddy, the best puppy in the world. Charles and Lizzie had wanted their own puppy forever, but no matter how much they had begged, Mom and Dad had begged, their parents said no. Finally, though, Mom and Dad had agreed that the family could foster puppies, taking care of each one until they found it the perfect home. Soon Charles and Lizzie had proven how responsible they could be. When Buddy came along, the whole family could be. When Buddy came along, the whole family fell in love with him. And Mom and Dad decided that the family was ready for a dog of their own. Now Charles hugged Buddy closer. We're almost there, he whispered into the pup's ear. He felt a little twinge in his belly as Mom turned up the road that led to his cousin's big old farmhouse. Lizzie loved to travel. She was always excited to go anywhere. But Charles liked his own house, his own things, and his own bed. He never felt quite comfortable when he was away from all that. Still, having Buddy with him was like bringing a little bit of home. All Charles had to do was touch Buddy, and he felt better. I wonder what Becky is up to these old days, Lizzie said. She's always getting into adventures. Charles felt the twing again. He licked Becky a lot. His cousin was funny and smart and good at solving mysteries. Charles liked playing detective. When they figured out the truth about Flash, a border collie puppy who had mysteriously appeared at Becky's house, but sometimes Becky was a little too adventurous. Remember they were visiting last spring and she dared you to climb that big maple tree? Lizzie asked. I will never forget the look on your face when you got up that high branch and couldn't figure out how to get down, Lizzie. Don't tease, Mom said. Thankfully, Charles wasn't hurt, but that whole business, he was back on the ground. Charles sighed and looked out of the window. Mom was right. It hadn't been funny. It had been scary, really scary. Hey, look, at that place, he said, trying to change the subject. The weak winter sun had nearly set, and long shadows just make out a tail iron gate driveway marked by tall trees on other sides would up the hill and disappear into a forest of pine trees. Imagine how genetic that house must be. If that's just a gate, I'll be your aunt. And Uncle aren't too thrilled. After all, they moved out of the city so they could have a simpler life. She turned the van up a long, bumpy, paved driveway. Here we are, she said as they pulled up in the front of the old farmhouse. At least their place hasn't changed at all. Charles' aunt, uncle, and cousin came out onto the porch when the van pulled up. Hello, it's so great to see you all, said Aunt Abigail, amid a lot of hugs. And look how you've grown. Everyone helps unload the van. Soon all their plans for cooking the holiday dinner suitcases. Charles' special favorite pillow, Mom's knitting stuff, Lizzie's sleeping bag, the Beans' toy fire truck, Buddy's bed and food dishes, Dad's hiking boots. We can only stay a few weeks, Mom joked, looking around at the huge pile. You're welcome as long as you want to be here, said Aunt Abigail. You're my favorite sister-in-law, remember? And I'm so glad you were able to come a few days early. Stephen doesn't believe the weatherman, but if this ice storm they're predicting does show up, nobody will be going anywhere later this week. Charles sniffed from foot to foot as he half listened to the grown-ups talking. Delicious cooking. Smells drifted in from the kitchen, and Charles' stomach grumbled. How long would it be until supper? He caught Becky's eye and rubbed his tummy while he made a funny face, drowned out by a loud knocking at the door. Aunt Abigail raised her eyebrows. Who could that be? She said as she opened the door. There, in the shadows just beyond the yellow glow of hall light, stood a tall, dark man in a black suit. "Hello," he said. "I'm hoping you can help me out." When the man took a step forward into the light, Charles gasped. The stranger on the doorstep had a puppy in his arms. For a moment, nobody said a word. They all stood gaping at the stranger at the doorstep. Charles noticed his shiny black hair, his silky red tie, his shiny black shoes, but most of all he noticed the shiny black nose of the puppy peeking out from the man's button-up black overcoat. Charles watched the puppy's nose twitch. Uncle Stephen cleared his throat and stepped forward. "I don't believe we met," he said. "I'm Stephen DeVries, and this is my wife Abigail and my daughter Beck." The stranger frowned and shook his head. "No time for all that. Look, can you help me or not? I'm a busy man. I don't care for a houseplant, much less a dog. I figured you farm folks." The puppy began to whimper and wriggle. The man adjusted his arms, trying to maintain his grasp. But it was clear to Charles that he didn't have a clue about how to calm a puppy. Charles walked over and held out his arms. I'm Uncle Stephen's nephew, Charles," he said. That came out kind of funny, but he didn't care. All he could think about was that puppy and how much he wanted to hold it. "I'm pretty good with puppies," he added. "It's a girl or boy? A girl, I think. Who knows? I'm not even sure it all happened so fast." Quickly, the man unbuttoned his coat and handed the puppy over with a look of relief. He pulled an oversized red silk handkerchief out of the breast pocket of his black suit, and used it to wipe his hands. Just then a phone buzzed. "That's me. Gotta take this." He stepped back, reaching into his pocket. Charles smiled when he felt no warm weight in his arms. The puppy was really too big and too heavy for him to hold, so he let her down gently onto the floor and knelt down to pet her. "Well, hello," he said softly. The puppy was brown on top and white below, and half-pricked, half-floppy ears, 4 big white stockinged paws, and a blaze of white right down her face. She gazed up at Charles, looking adorably worried with her wrinkly brown brow and big, soft, soulful brown eyes. "Who are you? Will you be my friend?" Lizzie, Becky, and Stephanie clustered around Charles to coo over the puppy, and the bean reached over them to pet her. Buddy danced around, stretching his nose to sniff the new arrival. The puppy wagged her tail. She seemed to enjoy all the attention. Charles buried his nose into the puppy's neck. She smelled sweet like cookie dough mixed with a horsey smell. She was a big, solid girl with chunky paws. Her fur was unbelievable soft. She yawned, showed sharp white teeth and a tender pink tongue, and shook her head so her ears flopped. Then she sat up on her haunches and put her big paws on either side of Charles' neck, giving him a warm puppy hug as she sniffed and snuffled at his cheek. He felt his heart swell. "What a sweetie," he said. "Good girl." Good, the man echoed, but he was talking into his phone. "I'll be in touch," he snapped. The phone shut and looked around like someone walking from a dream. When his eyes eye fell on Charles and the puppy. He nodded curtly. I'll be off then, he said. He took a step from the door. Wait, said Uncle Stephen. Are you leaving this puppy with us? Where did it come from? What are we supposed to do with it? The man began to button up his overcoat. Look, I'm not a dog person, and I'm no hero, but here's what happened. I was working in the city today. After I'm on my way home at rush hour on a highway with 4 lanes, a busy traffic. Next thing I know, there's this tiny thing trotting across the road, ignoring all the cars and trucks whizzing by. How she managed to avoid getting flattened like a pancake, I'll never know. Anyway, I pulled over onto the median, grabbed her, and he held up his hands. That's all I know. And her way, and I pulled over to the median, grabbed her. He held up his hands. That's all I know. End of story. Can you help me or not? Charles gasped at the man. You are a hero, he said. You saved this puppy's life. The man shrugged. Whatever. His phone buzzed again. He pulled it out of his pocket and looked at it, frowning. Why can't they figure out things on their own? He said to nobody. Then, without so much as a goodbye glance, he flipped the phone open and began to walk away. Yes, he said into the phone as he stepped off the porch. What is it now? Wait, said Uncle Stephen. We don't even know your name. But the man had disappeared into the dark November night. Who was that? Mom asked. I don't know. And honestly, I'm not sure. I can't care to know, said Aunt Abigail. He certainly was rude. I'm guessing he's one of our new neighbors, said Uncle Stephen. Not too neighborly, I said. Very odd, Dad said. The puppy whimpered, and everybody turned to look at her. Pretty funny that he came here. Isn't it? Lizzie petted the puppy and made soothing noises. I mean, we foster puppies. That's what we do. But how could he know that? Well, Mom said quickly, fostering puppies, that's what we do at home. We're just visiting here, remember? But we have to help, said Becky. Look at her. This puppy is adorable, and she's obviously all alone in the world. No collar, no tags, running around in traffic. Poor thing, said Stephanie. We'd have to take her to the vet and find out if she has a microchip, Aunt Abigail said thoughtfully. So many dogs have that now. And if she does, it's possible we could find her owner. Charles stared at his aunt. He knew what a microchip was, a tiny computer chip that could be inserted under a pet's skin with information about who owned the cat or dog, how to find them. But the way Aunt Abigail was talking, you mean Aunt Abigail and Uncle Stephen exchanged looks. Then they both smiled and nodded yes, said Aunt Abigail. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, I think we should help this puppy. Chapter 3. Well, that's settled then, said Aunt Abigail. We'll have plenty of time to get to know the puppy, but for right now, let's get supper on the table. You all might be starving after your trip, and why don't you bring your things upstairs and get settled? She waved a hand around at everything they carried in. You're all in your usual rooms. Becky, Stephanie, come give me a hand. Everyone else, scatter as well. Charles found him another hug, then sat down and looked at him, whimpering softly. "What's the matter, sweetie?" Charles asked. The puppy shook herself off and stretched and yawned, her front paws out in front and her bottom in the air. Charles noticed the way her back white tipped tail curled over her back. She was so cute. She shook herself again and began to pat around, sniffing here and there the floor. "Oh," said Charles, "do you have to?" Just then the puppy began to squat right in the middle of the entry floor. Charles swooped in and scooped her up. "Let's go outside." He pushed open the front door and stepped into the dark, cold night. He had no leash, but he had no choice either. This puppy had needed to pee. He lugged her out onto the front lawn, but put her down and watched her closely. "Good girl," he said as she squatted in the ivy surrounding a big tree. "Okay, let's go back inside." But the puppy had other ideas. She wandered further into the yard, away from the circle of light. Charles called, "Come, puppy." His heart thumped. Run away before into 4 lanes of traffic. Wasn't that enough for one day? "Come on, girl." He called into the dark. Finally, he spotted her coming toward him, dragging something red and floppy along the ground. When she came closer into the light, he realized it was a piece of red cloth, the silk handkerchief from the stranger's pocket. He grabbed the puppy before she could get any more ideas about wandering around. "Give me that," he said, taking the handkerchief from her mouth. The heavy, smooth fabric felt cold. He shoved it into his sweatshirt pocket and headed back inside, herding the puppy in front of him. "We need to get this puppy a collar and a leash," he announced as he walked into the kitchen with the puppy at his heels and a name. Over dinner, Aunt Abigail famous chicken and dumplings. The puppy was the main topic of the conversation. "What breed do you think she is, Lizzie?" said Uncle Stephen. He knew that Lizzie was practically memorized the dog breeds of the world poster that hung on her bedroom. Lizzie shook her head. "I've been trying to figure that out." They all turned to take another look at the puppy, who was lying on a bed they made from some old towels Aunt Abigail had provided. The slept soundly with her legs straight out in of her. Once in a while her feet twitched and she let out a soft snore. "Poor thing," said Aunt Abigail. "Whatever she is, she's all tuckered out. What a day she must have had. I think she looks like a St. Bernese mountain dog. Same kind of coloring, brown and white. She might have some German Shepherd in her too. Look at her pointy snout and the way her ears sort of try to stand up. She's definitely a mixed breed, an all-American, a mutt. Mutts are the best." Charles glanced over at Buddy, who lay in another corner of the dining room on his own bed. Buddy and the new puppy had similar coloring, brown and white, and their half-pricked ears. Where similar, Buddy's brown was a tan caramel color, while the new puppy's fur was darkened like strong coffee, but they both had a white stripe up the middle of their faces. Besides that they were completely different. That was the great thing about mutts, thought Charles. Each one was unique, not exactly like any other dog in the world. Nobody knew what mix of breeds Buddy was, but he was the best puppy ever, and they all loved him. Who cares what she is? He said, looking at the new puppy. She's really cute. So, what should we call her? Asked Becky. How about Pilgrim, since she came at Thanksgiving, or simply her for her good luck? Dad asked. What about we call her Short Dipley? Asked Mom, laughing. I vote for something simple like Daisy. Maybe we should try to figure out her real name, Charles said. After all, she probably had one. We could call her lots of different names and see if there's one she responds to. That would take forever, said Lizzie. What would we do? Go alphabetically? Think about it, Abby, Addie, Aggie. That's just the A's, they argued about it straight through to dessert. Who wants coffee with their pie? Aunt Abigail asked. She cleared plates. We just got a new espresso machine. I've been treating myself to yummy mocha latte every night. What's that? Charles asked. Coffee with foamy milk on top. Sammy wrinkled her nose. The foamy milk part is good, but the coffee, yuck. Mocha latte, Charles said. That's it. The perfect name for the puppy. She's brown and white, just like coffee and milk. We can call her Mocha for short. Everybody stared at him. What? Charles asked. Maybe that had been a really dumb idea. You're right, it's absolutely perfect, said Mom, reaching out to give his hand a squeeze. Chapter 4, guys. That's the end of these 3 chapters. And I hope you enjoy the 3 chapters. 2 more parts to go. Yeah. And I hope you like my home screen.